And here's the start. Alterpacks was founded on garbage. And essentially, it was because of my travels across the world. I had a degree in mathematics. I became a journalist. And in my travels, I came across whole communities choking under the weight of their own garbage, inevitably made up of food waste, plastics, and a lot of corroded paper and even aluminum. So here's the surprise. Alterpacks is not a packaging company. We're actually a new materials company. And the reason we are a new materials company is because when we looked at the materials available in the market today, we are looking at the model of not using any form of virgin materials. Everything that we use from Alterpacks comes strictly from the materials that are being thrown out and disposed. So we dissect the kind of materials that we have today in the system. It's not just about plastics. It's essentially about aluminum. We also have coated paper. And the coatings are either synthetic or, I love hearing the word, it's aqua-based. And then you also have plastics. And every time you sip out of that coffee cup from your so-called paper coffee cup, think about it logically. Can paper really hold water? So you're really not sipping out of a paper cup. You're sipping out of a paper-coated plastic cup. And that's essentially plastic. And essentially, we look at plastics, aluminum, coated paper. They were never designed really for our consumption. They were designed for cost. They were designed for convenience. And if we look at plastics, we become so immune to it because I think the entire day you're hearing a lecture about plastics and plastics and more plastics. And you know that plastics are all around us. But I think the added factor that we have today is that it's not just around us, it's now inside us. And you can dispute as much as you want with regards to the figures, but the science speaks for itself. The microplastics are inside us, and we can find it in what we eat, in the water we consume and drink from, in our soil. And aluminum, definitely something that can be recycled. And what's so great about aluminum is that if you recycle it, recycling is key. But in any form of eco-materials, there's a big difference with what can be recycled and what's really recycled. So aluminum, recycle it. But is it being recycled? Because the primary production of aluminum in itself, that Coke can or any other drink can that you're consuming from, if it's made from a primary source, the smelting and all of that, that's going to be high carbon emissions. So definitely no need a lecture because I think you know the consequences. But the thing is, what we are looking at is we are looking at what is being disposed. And for us, we have a huge raw material supply, and it's called agricultural waste. 1 billion tons, nearly 1 billion tons of agricultural waste is burnt or landfilled every year. And what does Alterpacks use? We're actually reclaiming spent wheat. Yes, wheat. And you might actually think, what on earth would a country like Singapore have wheat in? And you'd be surprised. We have enough industries in Singapore, one in particular, that actually churns out 100 tons of wheat, spent wheat per day. And we actually take this, not in Singapore, because when you're a young startup and you're approaching a huge MNC, they barely know your name and they give you the runaround. So what we essentially did was we went to China. Yes. So we went to China, and this was during COVID, and we approached an agricultural waste company that is like 5 times the size of Takashimaya. So imagine that. 5 times the size of Ngee Ann City. And every day, every hour on the hour, they are disposing spent wheat. So imagine one whole building the size of Takashimaya, and wheat that they don't require comes down from it. And no, it's got nothing to do with alcohol. It's got to do with the consumption of food products that we take in our food. And all that company is using it for is they're squeezing the wheat and they're interested in the water for food production. But this dried wheat is then being disposed. And if we look at what's happening in the biomaterials market today, sustainable materials is a huge market. That's what every investor likes to see. They love to see these huge numbers. They love to see that we've got nearly $1 trillion worth of sustainable materials. That is pretty much how it seems to be going. But how about we recycling it and reusing it? This is Alterpacks. The product you see is 100% plant fiber, absolutely no coatings. I thought it was really interesting seeing all the other speakers talk about behavior, consumer behavior, as well as the battle versus sustainability. And that is a battle that at Alterpacks we go against every single day. The first battle, I would say the spirit is willing, but the price point is always very weak. Every company out there will tell us we want to be sustainable. Some of the largest MNCs in Singapore and the Singapore-based global companies actually tell us we love your product, we want to be sustainable. But we're paying this amount right now for plastics, and we're using cornstarch. So a cornstarch product, that's eco-friendly, isn't it? And you're thinking, okay, you're on another planet, I can't talk to you. But here's the reality of the situation is that we are able, with our technology, to create this product, this material. And how do we do it? We collect it from that factory in China. We have it sent to our own processing plant in China. And you have to do that because in China, you have to safeguard your IP, not just in China, but in any other country around the world. And that is where the Alterpacks technology happens. We extract from that spent wheat with our proprietary technology and process, and we create it into a powder. And that powder becomes an additive. Think about it as Ajinomoto. So this Ajinomoto can actually be added to existing paper and pulp fiber lines. And what does it do? It converts what you actually use today into a material that has the advanced temperature settings and properties of an Alterpacks material, able to go from freezer to microwave to oven. And how do we do it? Our additive is placed inside that water. Aluminum mold, which is a standard manufacturing process of any particular shape, it will plunge into the water. And when within a matter of 10 seconds, it will emerge, you get a fully formed product. Ooh, doesn't show. Okay, well, unfortunately, you can't see it because I think it didn't move, but I had examples of it. But within 10 seconds, you get a fully formed product. And we're talking about a whole range of materials, but we are not a tableware company. We're a materials company. And every time we do a different case study, it's to actually do a proof of concept as we skip industries. And why do we do that? Because when customers take a look at the plant fiber material, the first thing they say is, I've seen that. We've seen that before. It doesn't work. No, it needs another introduction because consumers have had such a bad experience with eco materials that when they come across a material that Alterpacks, the first thing that goes through their head is that, I've seen this, paper, cardboard, it can't hold oils, it can't hold water. And I think Stephen's going to do for you a little demonstration here today. This is a very simple Alterpacks, and in case you're thinking about pricing, this Alterpacks container is 1.5 times more expensive than plastics. So a plastic container like this will cost 8 cents. This Alterpacks container will cost 12 cents, right? And after closing it, this is why the Indian chef in the Indian restaurant loved it. Because when he packed it with all of his ingredients, it fell on the ground and nothing spilled. So actually, I'm not going to consume from that Indian restaurant, but he actually told, boss, we got to buy from this company because nothing spilled. That was how it happened. Yeah. So that it won't spill. And yes, what you've come across is a plant fiber material. And you might think that with the coating, there might be a coating. Actually, there's no coating. Why? Because Alterpacks technology, our ability is to actually form the natural barrier within the process itself and not have to actually put in another form of coating. So it holds hot and oily foods. It's microwave safe. It can go into an oven. So right now in Australia, some home bakers are using the Alterpacks tray in place of aluminum trays to actually bake their goods. And it can also be heat sealed. So if anybody knows their science, you need plastic to mold onto plastic. You know how bubble tea, you love that plastic that's on top? then you poke your straw, and then you take the Instagram. So right now, the Alterpacks tray or any Alterpacks material, you can actually use that with the heat seal, and it does not require plastics to plastics. Here's another way we crossed industries. We were very fortunate to actually have a second generation fruit and vegetable family who supplies to the supermarkets in Singapore say that they wanted to get rid of the styrofoam and the plastics in supermarkets. So it's amazing, isn't it? We spend trillions on healthcare and yet neglect the very materials that actually go into our mouths. And for the women here, you're going to outlive the men. So one of the best things to do would be to avoid the plastics. And yet when we head to the supermarkets, and the supermarket chains are another one, you tell them that you don't want to wrap it in plastics. They'll tell you, well, it's a cost issue. So they were able to actually switch from Korean paprikas, in which we supplied the material, to Candine organic apples. And you're going to say, but there's a plastic wrapped around that. Yes, we can save half the world. We can't save the other half. But why was there plastic wrapped around that? It's because of consumer behavior. How many of us, and I'm responsible for that, as guilty as the next person, love to go to a supermarket to poke, touch, feel, and ensure that when you're buying something for your mother-in-law, it's the best perfect-looking apple or the best-looking perfect grape ever. And you start switching the products from container to container, and they want to turn it upside down. The Alterpacks material is opaque. It cannot be transparent. It's not scientifically possible for us to do that. But what the customers want is they want to see the products. And so what we have managed to do is we have at least managed to change out organic apple containers, and it's over 100,000 units have already been changed out. And now we're moving into the medical area. Why? Because the amount of medical plastics used in hospitals for consumables is an untapped market. And so for Alterpacks, we were fortunate enough to work with the United Nations Development Program in Indonesia to actually combat the amount of plastic consumables used in hospitals. So the product on your right is the Alterpacks plant-fibre container. It's a kidney tray. And the product on your left is made from disposed coconut shell powder that was being burnt in Indonesia. And there's international certification. Why? It was important for us as a company to ensure that if I'm asking you to believe that my material is what it says it is, it has the certification to stand on its feet. And at the end of the day, don't throw away an Alterpacks container after one use. Wash it. Use it at least 2 to 3 times, wash it. And after you finish washing it, you can actually plant it, put it in your pot, because it's 100% home compostable. But if you leave it on your shelf and there is absolutely no reaction or no contact with soil, oxygen, or water, all three together, there will be no composting taking place. It can stay on your shelf for years. But the moment you have the 3 factors in there, it will start composting. And so for Alterpacks, we have a mission, a huge mission, which is not impossible, to be able to replace 1 billion units of single-use packaging by the year 2030. And we know that what we are able to do is to look at the future of materials by using waste to combat waste. The next technology is for the Alterpacks material to go into a steamer. And the next one is on an open fire. And the future of materials is actually in our hands. So thank you.